Alright, so welcome back to Tomboy Official. Welcome back to the podcast. Alright, so I'm talking about methods to deal with, when you have kind of an emotional state that's either impacting your sleep, like getting to sleep, impacting your, comfort, like your comfort when you're awake, impacting your ability to stay asleep, like you wake up and then you're like thinking about this stuff. Just something that's having like an impact that's really a challenge and complex. I was kind of developing a method with it last night, and I kind of found one that I was able to work with that for me it really worked. And so I was noticing, I had this situation. I'm not going to explain the whole thing again, but in the Insomnia kind of related kind of episode, there's more information in there. But I had this method. It was mostly because I was like, I do want to stay awake and process this because I'm already awake anyways, and I just feel so like irritable and just like, yeah, I can go to sleep, but it's like I kind of want to get to the bottom of it because, I had the energy to do it. Even though I was tired and even though I could have gone to sleep, I was kind of more so like in the mood to try to like figure out what was going on, especially because it kind of blindsided me. Like I wasn't expecting it to come up. So I, had been confronted by a friend about my relationship status and kind of how I go about dating and connecting with people in different relationships. And I came to my own realization that I really value connections with people. So I don't tend to really care too much how far they live or how how far they live or how anything. Like I don't really care like too much about like how they're gonna be like how do I say this? Like, let me start over. So how far I don't care too much about like how far they live or if they're gonna move. If I'm connecting to someone, I prefer to just have the connection for however long, as long as we're all being honest about it and I'm not trying to move to live with them when they move, or like I'm not expecting them to stay, and vice versa, they're not expecting those things of me too. So as long as we're kind of on the same page, knowing what to expect from one another, I don't really care if I like somebody and they're gonna move. I don't really care. And I do have a lot of connections in the LGBT world, like not connections like perks or anything, but like I like to socialize with different types of people. And I like to socialize with my types of people, like when I start getting like into relationships with people, I'm like, yes, like I like to keep that going. And I really, I like to do those are two kind of things that I'm realizing more and more that I value more than almost anything. It's my connections with people, how I treat people in those connections, and I also like my own like creativity, hobbies, art, any types of art, I consider the things I do online to be art, and like the writing and stuff like that, even though, you know, I'm doing it at my most tired times of day, I know, but I also don't want to stop myself from doing it. So it is kind of like more of a hobby. It's not super polished. The quality could potentially be a lot more like smoothed out and like, you know, much more like smooth, like, yeah, just basically smoothed out. So, you know, that's, you know, the quality kind of suffers because my energy is kind of low a lot, but I am trying to get better with making notes on stuff. But those are things that I really value. But, you know, I was kind of developing this method with all these situations that come up, and it's taking a lot for me to kind of even be like, all right, like, pause, what do you want to do? And so I think, you know, like, what do I want to do? Do I want to go to sleep because it is 2 o'clock in the morning? Do I want to go to sleep? It is 5 o'clock in the morning and I'm still awake. You know, do I want to watch a video and just relax but not sleep? Do I want to just get right into some relaxation thing that's going to put me right to sleep? Some go-tos for me, things like ASMR, things like Tibetan singing bowls. I like Michael Seeley's YouTube channel. He has a lot of relaxing kind of tracks to listen to called like sleep hypnosis and things like that. I find them valuable and helpful and quick and effective, but I was like, I don't really actually want to use any of that because I wasn't really trying to like put myself to sleep. So I was like, well, I want to actually like think about this more, but I want to see why this is bothering me, you know? So I decided, you know, I need to try to find a method. So I realized, you know, I wasn't emotionally numb necessarily. I had a mix of complex emotions and was feeling all sorts of things, and my thoughts were going all over the place. And then, you know, I was like very like kind of like emotional and more on the irritated and angry side of things. But then I took all that and naturally I turned it into myself, like inwards, towards myself. And I started thinking, you know, this person was making these comments, and it made me feel insecure at that time. And I was thinking about, oh wow, I really was feeling pretty insecure when that friend mentioned that. And I started, like, those feelings started coming up again where I was like, oh, I'm feeling kind of insecure. But something I noticed too, I naturally pick up on different kinds of energy. And that's something I noticed. I'm like, well, I pick up on different energy, right? So, sorry, the road's like so loud. I pick up on different energy. So, just because I'm feeling insecure after talking to somebody, doesn't mean I need to feel insecure, right? Because, like I mentioned, like, I value the way that I'm not regretting that I've met any of these people that have moved. And again, this person was overly generalizing, because it's not every person I date or meet that moves, and it's not every person that doesn't live locally. It's just, I think also they're trying to push to meet some of these people that I've gone out with because of their nosiness. There's some curiosity there, but then there's also like this nosiness that I noticed too. And I think they just get really insecure, and they kind of have this like ultra need for somebody to be involved with them in a way, like somebody to be like they need to be in somebody's business, basically, about their relationships. They just like don't have an easy time socializing, unfortunately, when they can't be talking about somebody else's relationships And I noticed too, when somebody asked this person about the same exact question, you know, about their relationship, they're quite hesitant and don't really feel like they want to answer. So it's kind of like, okay, well, you can't really just be asking people all sorts of stuff if you're not willing to really kind of like talk about it too. It's like, that's not really equal. And, you know, everyone, I think there are a lot of people who just, you know, have trouble connecting on that level. But I do value my connection with this person too. I mean, I've shared a lot with them in our friendship and everything, and I try to be forgiving. I try to be patient and understanding with other people when they have things that I don't really understand or know how to deal with. I'm like, there's got to be a way to deal with this, you know, and especially if it's not like super toxic. And again, you know, if like we're out for drinks and stuff like that, I mean, you get what comes with the territory. Not everybody's their best on liquor, you know, and so, you know, but yeah, so I noticed, you know, I did kind of want to process things, but because everything was so chaotic in my mind and I was feeling so like insecure internally, it was just hard for me, because I was like, well, I don't want to feel insecure and be like, now I got to meet with this person again and I'm feeling all like negative. But I then realized, I was like, you know, maybe I'm picking up on their insecurity, because I don't know if they're like super secure with their relationship stuff. I mean, maybe they are, but I don't. I mean, nobody really is. Let's be real, you know, like, it's kind of a vulnerable situation to be in when you're with somebody, when you're dating somebody, when you're talking to somebody, when you like somebody, when you have a crush on somebody, and then trying to get them to like meet your friends. So I started processing things more and more, and I was like, it's hard for me to process. So the first thing I did, the first thing in the method that I developed last night / this morning, the first thing I did was I had to tell myself, you know, let me just recount the story the way that I know it and find out the places where I started feeling like the discomfort, the irritability. And even, you know, it's kind of interesting that somebody would think that they have a topic that they would consider rude, that they want to bring up at a group full of people, and then they bring it up in a group full of people, and it's like, that's, you know, you already knew it was rude, so why would you go out of your way to say it and then proceed to try to have a conversation? Like, in my head, I'm like, you know, I need to start putting these things back on the other person who's asking me intrusive questions, or questions that seem like there's no need for them to even bring it up in the first place, because it doesn't really affect them directly. Like, I'm not complaining about any of the stuff that they're talking about, like about like the distance of the people that I meet, or like if they're gonna move. I'm not like complaining to this person about it. So I don't know if they, like, why they could even assume that I'm like fazed by it, or like hurt by it, or concerned by it, because I'm not like calling them up, or like talking like, I wish this person would stay, or like, I wish I didn't meet them because they're gonna leave, or like anything like that. There's nothing like that I've said. And so I think that they're just making assumptions, or just trying to bring stuff up that they think is maybe odd. But also, I march to the beat of my own drum. I do things my own method and my own way. And so what business is it of someone else's if I choose to date people that don't live near me or whatever? Like, I'm not really always trying to have a relationship that looks very conventional or stereotypical. I mean, I'm not like super unconventional, like, but I'm very open-minded, and I do have an easy time connecting with people and trying hard to like have deep connections and understand them. So I was, you know, having to tell myself this story in order of what happened. You know, like we came to this place on this night, and I was with these people, or I was with this person before these other guys came to join, or whatever, you know. And we had been talking before that at the bar, waiting for the boys to come, and we were just chatting, and things were going really good. And it's kind of like, okay, well, why do you gotta put everybody's business out there? Like, I don't ever talk about this person's partner or dating or anything like that, but they feel like they have the right to just like bring up all kinds of stuff just because I've been like talking to them about it. And so partially it's on me that I do talk to them about it, and then also partially it's on them that they just, you know, just don't really know how to socialize on that level about stuff. And there's got to be something that they're just not okay with. Like, they might not really be okay with LGBT relationships, and there might be some insecurities on their end about it, and that's why they keep asking so much about it. That might be something there. I mean, I have some other types of things that, you know, I think I kind of noticed that could be going on, but ultimately, you know, I was able to, you know, remember what happened start to finish, think about it, start beginning to end, and starting to identify, you know, where was I feeling upset? Like, how was I feeling during different parts of this night? And I realized during certain parts I was feeling a certain way. And I started feeling that way, and but I did kind of have not really a regret well, maybe a bit of a regret about my response, because I did feel kind of put on the spot. So that's kind of more so what it was that I didn't really like that I wasn't really able to authentically describe how I like to connect with people and how I value that, and like the real reason why, because I think I didn't really fully know why. And I think they were kind of trying to put me on the defensive to like make a point to be like, oh, this should be like, you're probably doing this because of some kind of insecurity, you know, which in a way is like, that's not really right to be just like bringing that up in front of people if you think that I'm doing this out of some kind of insecurity. But I also would like to know their perspective, like, why do they think I'm doing that? Because if somebody's just going to be like, I don't know, I mean, that's kind of like a cop-out. It's like, well, you must be bringing this up out of the blue for some reason, because I'm not complaining about it. And so it's like, well, why are you still thinking about it and bringing it up? Because I do talk to this person about, you know, people that I meet. Like, I don't really talk in too much detail, but, you know, because I like my privacy, and I don't really like this person that involved, because they try to be like really involved, and I don't really want it. But yeah, I kind of would like to know their perspective on why they were bringing it up in the first place, or why they think I do things a certain way, because apparently they're thinking about it. I mean, it wasn't really something that fazed me too much. But one thing that does kind of faze me is like, I don't want people like assuming that I'm being like dishonest, or that I'm not meeting people or whatever, just because I'm pretty cautious about who I introduce. Like, I don't want to like introduce somebody I like or someone I have a crush on to somebody who's acting like that, and then like get in a situation where, you know, I have a friend who feels like they want to just like grill people, you know, and it's really inappropriate. And I'm like, well, you know, I don't think, you know, they realize why I'm not introducing them to people that I've gone out with, and they're a little like nosy about it. And so, a lot of my friends are, but I'm still debating if I really trust this person to get involved on that level with those people. And so that's one thing. And then, so after figuring out kind of where I was upset, I kind of took the areas where I was upset about something, and just like I said, I kind of thought about them and like, okay, what did I say? What did they say? What is it about what I said or what they said that, like, does it match with like what I value? And I, like I mentioned, I do have values about like how I treat people, how I interact with people, how I connect with people. I do think about these things in a lot of depth when I'm interacting with people, or especially when I'm getting to know them. I think about this stuff a lot because I want to, make sure that, I understand where people are coming from, that I'm not being super obnoxious, that I'm not, pushing them away, and that I'm not like coming across as like needy or like just too, like I really literally have nothing to do other than like try to contact this person. Like, I don't want to be like that with them. So I was just like trying to understand that better. But they were just kind of not too helpful. Like, I didn't find them to be like I didn't find like a lot of value in that part of the conversation. It didn't bring me, I don't think it brought me and the friend closer together. I could see like the boys trying to like get to know me better on that level and like talk more about dating and relationships and see like kind of who I'm interested in and what types of people. But then they kind of notice how she kind of talks to me, and so I just wonder kind of what her intention is with all of that. Like, I've kind of probably more than once, when she's kind of been a little bit on my case, I've had to basically say something about it and just be like, well, I already told you that and I'm not going to repeat it. I remember saying that when she was trying to like put me on the spot in front of like a bunch of friends, and I was like, well, I already literally just told you. And I noticed she kind of like does that more when she's like in a group. She kind of likes to see people like embarrassed or just kind of like feeling a certain way. And so I don't know, like I think she just kind of likes other people to feel like a little bit insecure, which is kind of weird. But I kind of do notice that. And so I'm like, well, because I'm able to really like pick up on other people's, energy about stuff, and I do kind of notice these things, but it's like I'm not really noticing it too much in real time. I think it is good to kind of like reflect on it more, so that like if it happens, then like in real time I kind of know, like kind of understand, okay, like maybe this person's feeling insecure and they're trying to put that on me. And it's like, I'm not really insecure in this kind of stuff. You're just trying to make me feel, or find things to make me feel like I should be insecure about them, when I wasn't insecure about them until this person was bringing them up. But I was only insecure because I was starting to internalize some of the stuff that they were mentioning, when it really wasn't a problem for me up until they mentioned it. And then, I'm like, well, just because somebody mentions something and wants to seem like something's an insecurity, they don't really know, So I think that's kind of the best method, at least at the moment, to be like trying to take a stance, know your own mind, your own body, your own decisions, kind of more details into it, have things be a little less on the automatic and more of something that is understandable. So I feel like it's not really like too bad of a situation. But it was feeling like it was worse yesterday than what it really was. But I do have some like narcissistic people that I've grown up around, and I think when I'm around people that are kind of on that narcissistic end, and they start trying to like put their stuff on you, put their stuff on me, I kind of tend to kind of almost buy into it and think like, oh yeah, maybe I did do that wrong, or maybe that is something that I did or whatever. And it's like, no, sometimes it's like, no, that's not really accurate. There's this guy, I wish I knew I don't even know what it is. I've only seen the channel once, and I've only seen this one video, and it's probably triggering. I think it was called like Two People or Two Person or something. I don't remember. He has I think he has the number 2 in his handle, and he spoke about his father being narcissistic, and it was live. It wasn't a skit, and the situation is, overall, this guy who lives with his dad, his mom, and I think grandma. I think that's who all lived in that house. And the dad was needing help with the PowerPoint of how to rotate a picture. But overall, it's like the dad is narcissistic. Overall, the dad has tendencies to put down his son, who's the guy who's recording this video, and then he gaslights him and starts lying about it and saying, like, twisting the situation, saying he didn't say that, or he didn't say it that way, or that's not what really happened. So this kid was pretty, like, he wasn't like young, but he was older, and he was kind of sick of the dad's narcissistic tendencies. So the kid recording the video takes a camera when his dad asks him, hey, I need help, like, trying to rotate this picture on a PowerPoint presentation, because he was working on some kind of presentation. And the kid's like, okay, so he goes over, helps him, and he's recording this. I don't know if he's recording that very, very beginning part where he helps him, but I think he is. And he records the beginning, from the beginning when the dad asked him to do something. So he records that, he helps the dad rotate the picture, and then the dad starts, like, doing something. Sorry, my throat's, like, super dry. I needed water. The dad starts, like, doing something else, but the kid had already helped him, and so the kid starts walking away, and the dad comments towards the son. As the son's walking away, he comments, "You're obnoxious," like calling him a name, saying that he's obnoxious. And this is after the kid had just helped him. And the kid's recording this and saying, okay, like, I don't want you to call me names or whatever, or I don't like your tone or something. He was trying to, like, remedy the situation so that the dad could, like, alter the way that he has always been treating this son. And the dad gets fixated on the son having a camera and recording that the dad is getting angry. And so the dad keeps on, like, turn off the camera. It's against my wishes for you to film me. It's an invasion of privacy. I don't want you having me recorded and on film when I'm angry and when we're in the middle of an argument. The dad never apologizes for calling the son obnoxious. At a certain point, the dad even starts saying he didn't say that that the son was obnoxious. He didn't mention that. And then, the son goes upstairs to his room and shuts the door and starts explaining after they have this whole argument on camera that goes back and forth with the kid trying to explain to his dad why he was recording it. And the dad could only focus on the fact that the kid was recording it. He couldn't listen. He couldn't let him hardly even get in one full sentence without interrupting and saying something else. He wasn't listening at all. He didn't care about the kid's feelings. He didn't care that he had hurt his feelings. He didn't care about anything but the fact that this camera was on. And so the kid starts explaining, in this first part of the argument, before he goes up to the bedroom by himself, he starts explaining, I'm upset, that you called me obnoxious and that this happens so much that you call me names or you try to put me down and then you say that you didn't, and then your tone and all this other stuff. And the grandma's in there with him, and the grandma starts taking the dad's side, saying, like, turn the camera off, like, blah, 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 like, all this kind of stuff. So the kid eventually, like, with the camera still on, goes upstairs, and I'm gonna guess this guy was, like, at least 15, if not, like, 18. I couldn't really tell. But he seemed a little older. Like, he was really intelligent in his thought process in the way that he was, like, talking. I wouldn't be surprised if he was actually in his 20s. But anyways, he was just trying to not necessarily exploit the dad, but to try to make it so that the family could find a way to kind of cut down on the disrespectful situations that the dad is perpetuating all this time, like, for everything all the time, it sounds like. So he was just using this as one example, because he was trying to say that he wanted to play it back so that they could kind of go through the recording so that they could have more peace in the family, and hopefully that would help them find a resolution to the dad putting people down and stuff. So that doesn't go well. The dad keeps ranting and raving about this camera, that, you need to delete it in front of me. I want you proof that you deleted the thing. The kid goes up to his room, and, the door's shut behind him, and then you hear the dad come upstairs, and he's not, like, banging on the walls or hitting anybody or, like, yelling necessarily. Like, he's not, like, yelling, screaming. He's just, like, you could tell he's noticeably, like, mad, but he's not, like, out of control. Well, he is out of control, but he's not, like, raging. And so the dad, the whole video, I think it was like a 20-something minute video, the dad the whole time, I can't believe that, I want you to delete this and erase it. I can't believe you're recording this in front of, I want you to delete it in front of me. And then he starts going to the point that he doesn't even want the son to have his phone with the camera on it, like the camera that's on the phone, but he wants to, like, take the phone or whatever. And he gets to a point where he's saying that he wants the son, like, there's going to be consequences if he doesn't do it, and he's going to have to, like, find somewhere else to live or something like that. And so the dad eventually goes downstairs, and the kid is upstairs with the camera on top of the stairs, so you could hear everything going on downstairs still. And then you could hear somebody, I don't know which, there are two women, so it's either the grandmother or the kid's mom, who was saying that at 11 o'clock they had this plan to go to swim, and they really just wanted to go swim, and that this dad had made sure that they were going to try to make this appointment to go swim on time. They were going to leave on time. But this argument got in the way, and the dad eventually starts blaming the kid's mom, saying, you need to take care of it. You need to make sure that he deletes it. Like, why aren't you taking my side? And like every time somebody tries to say like, hey, maybe there's more than one side to this story. Maybe you need to look at your tone. Maybe you were speaking too harshly. Maybe it was something you did. The dad is just like, you're taking his side, and you're not doing anything to help me. Why aren't you helping me? And he starts getting mad at the mom, and the mom's like, well, this isn't my fault. And he's like, well, yes, it is. And so then now he's in an argument with the mom, and then the mom, I think, eventually left and went to the pool, even though it was a little after 11 at that point. She's like, I don't even want to put up with this. I'm leaving. I'm going to go to the pool. And then the dad is still downstairs talking to the grandma. Meanwhile, the dad just never sees his own role. He never apologizes. He's never like, okay, let's look at the film. Okay, let me listen to my son and see what he wanted. Like, I do think that people shouldn't be filmed against their will. And the dad was concerned because the son had previously posted of him doing something in his car. I think driving with one finger or something in the car. And then he posted that, and the dad didn't like it. And so the dad was just not happy. He was not having a good day. But he had already lashed out at 3 people over this one situation, and all he could think about was that there's a video recording of him losing his temper in the middle of an argument that could be released onto the internet, and he didn't seem to care about any other thing. And that's kind of, how people who are narcissistic think. They see their perspective and how they might be put down, but they can't really see that they put people down. They gaslight people. They don't want to listen to anybody else's opinions. Anybody who tries to clarify the situation, they try to, not even like see it from anyone else's side, only their own. And so it was I've known people that are like that too, that just kind of want to, make the situation more so about what they're not getting and not really understanding other people. And that's a different type of insecurity. I think that on my end is something that that would be my limit. I wouldn't put up with that. But when it's just like, friends or family that have like, some kind of a social thing that goes on that annoys me, I'm usually not gonna be like, okay, I'm not gonna talk to you anymore. Like, I might need a break from them or limit my interactions together and stuff like that. Like, I might not be making plans with them every weekend or whatever, but it's like, or I might have to set like boundaries even in my own mind of like what I'm not going to talk about, what I won't mention, that kind of thing. Kind of set boundaries about my own privacy and things like that, like, for sure. But the thing is like, I do value trying to be open with people and honest with people. And I do think that not everybody can handle it. Not everybody is gonna treat your, vulnerability with kindness. Not everyone's gonna try to be understanding of it. Not everybody's gonna try to look out for you, and they're gonna get in their own insecurity sometimes, and it can be a hurtful thing to try to deal with. And so it's kind of more so that I was dealing with, is just like, someone else having their insecurities that just they don't really manage, and it just comes out in other ways. And like I mentioned, adding alcohol to the scenario, adding other stuff to the scenario, groups of people, and all this kind of anxiety and stuff that they might be experiencing, it's just like, I can't really expect their like best behavior. But also, if I know that, I can know what to do. And so that's kind of an example of a method that I've used for myself very recently, early this morning. And that's a method that I came across, when it comes to someone who's on the severe end of like narcissism and just focusing on themselves and creating a toxic environment where they're putting somebody down all the time. Like, I would say that I don't associate with people who are just like that all the time, but I don't know. It's a challenge, but at the end of the day, it's like, if you know what you value and you know where your goals are and what you're trying to get out of it and what you want the other person to get out of it and what they're trying to get out of it, and if you're able to be there for them in the way that they need, sometimes you can just kind of notice, like, okay, like, maybe we kind of missed the mark here, but it doesn't mean it's an end of a friendship. It doesn't mean we have to get mad and angry about it, like, I can just tailor the way I think about it, tailor the way I react to them, have it in my mind, just kind of like, okay, like, they're clearly going through something else on their end that's making them act in this weird way. And, I can't put everything on myself. And that's the method that I would prefer to use. Is not saying that I'm never going to listen to anybody who has feedback about, like, anything on my end that's, like, negative, because I'm not a perfect person and I make a lot of mistakes just like everybody. But also, it's like, I don't need to internalize, somebody else's, insecurity about something, and then they're putting that insecurity on me. It doesn't necessarily mean that just because they're bringing something up that they think is an insecurity, or, I'm labeling it as them thinking it as an insecurity, or them trying to make me feel insecure about it. Just because they mention that they think it's rude that they're going to mention it, and then they mention it, it's like, well, if you were trying to say it in a good way, you wouldn't think it was necessarily something rude. And then also to bring it up in a group full of people that aren't even involved in the conversation in the first place. Like, these guys, my gay guy friends aren't really too aware of who I date, because I only barely started speaking with them about that kind of thing. So, yeah, it's just kind of, on some ends, like, challenging to try to really, be, involved like that. But that's what has to be dealt with, when you have, when you want to keep relationships with people and things become a struggle. You kind of got to just take people as they are. Like, people can learn, and I think sometimes they need, like, a mild nudge. And I think it was a little triggering for me yesterday when they started asking me about another friend, if that friend was, like, in a relationship and dating this other person. And I just sent, like, a smile, like a long smiley face, and they're just like, okay, like, what does that mean? And I was just like, well, you got to ask them. I mean, and then they're like, oh, well, just out of curiosity, does this person know this person from, like, this or that place, And I was like, I guess, but, like, I don't really know. Like, why do you need me to be, like, telling you anything? Like, you have this person's number. Why don't you just ask them? I mean, I don't understand why they come to me first about that, and I'm not gonna tell them. But you know, I really don't feel good about telling other people's business, even if it's not a secret. Like, nobody's like, I mean, this friend who is, you know, dating somebody that I didn't mention, but that friend is dating this person, and they have pictures of it all over their Instagram. And so I'm like, well, you know, if you would just like interact with people, you would know. So I don't know, sometimes I just find it challenging to kind of, you know, be involved with people. You know, I cherish my friendships, I love my friends, but it can still be a challenge. There can still be some difficulties there. So I'm just hoping that, you know, people can kind of just know how I prefer things to be, and they can kind of just know, you know, how to treat one another nicely and kindly. And, you know, if we're trying to have like a healthy community of friendship, you know, people can't just be like popping off all over the place. Like, you know, they got to be respectful. And it's kind of like, you know, you can't really be like disrespectful like that. You know, I feel like it is kind of disrespectful, but, you know, it's also forgivable. It's not like anything to like cause a witch hunt over, or like to be too hurt over. Like, it really isn't that big of an issue now. It was just a bit of a big issue last night. You know, I was pretty upset and worried. I was upset about what had happened, and then kind of worried about like what this meetup is going to be like tomorrow. But I'm also really looking forward to meeting my friends. But, you know, it's not even really something I'm going to bring up. Like, unless they do mention it again or something similar and try to put me on the spot, I think it's fair if someone's going to ask me something to put me on the spot, I'm going to put it back on them first and ask them, you know, why they think that, you know. So, like, just like when she asked me, like, why do you date people that live so far or whatever, like, I would ask her, you know, like, why do you think I do that? You know, I'd like to know why she thinks I do it, because I don't really understand the intention of bringing it up other than to create some weird tension, because it was a nice day, you know. We're not the type of group that's tense. We're just there to like drink, and then that was like the pregame before we went out dancing and stuff. But it wasn't really like anything more than that. So I don't know, but we'll see. So yeah, I mean, I think it's fine to put it back on people. And then, you know, also just knowing your own self and why you do things. Like, you don't really have to feel obligated to really ever answer to anybody. And yeah, especially if someone's being like way intrusive. Seriously, you have every right to your own privacy. You don't really have to, you know, put up with somebody being intrusive, putting you down, and you don't have to internalize any of that either. Like, if somebody's like intruding on your privacy about something about yourself, you know, you never have to really, you know, reveal any of that. I know I've had people in the past ask me like about some specific person. I think I mentioned this before, but they were mentioning that because this person was Asian and that I'm not Asian, because I'm a black person, that people don't want to date black people. And this was a black person. And then I was walking with another friend who was like this Asian person. These people I thought were my friends, but I realized that they just weren't nice people. So I don't hang out with them anymore. But I have no need to really interact with them. But yeah, like the other person was asking this other person, like, would you ever date a black person? And I was like, okay, why is she even like asking her that? Like, because just because I was dating somebody who wasn't a black person and that this other person just happened to be Asian doesn't mean that they think alike. I mean, if this other person didn't want to be going out with me, they wouldn't be going out with me. Like, they're the ones that were pursuing things in the first place anyways. I was just kind of like sitting there. Like, they're the ones that were always trying to like make dates and do all this stuff. And then it kind of clicked. I was like, oh, I see what's actually going on, because they're actually interested. And I didn't really get that. I wasn't really understanding the clues that they were like putting out. But I kind of got it a little later on. But yeah, like I was like, okay, well, but this person, I don't know, like kept getting all involved, asking about relationships, and then I was explaining it to her, and then she got all like upset that she thought that me and this person weren't really, together, or that they didn't really like me because of my race, even though she'd never met this other person at all, and there was nothing to suspect that they weren't interested in like different races or anything like that. I mean, their family was like multiple races too, so I don't think they really cared about all that. And then we were together off and on for a while, and we were also really close friends for like years, and we're still good friends. But yeah, that person was like, they started saying all this stuff about like the racial stuff, and then trying to prove a point about like Asians not wanting to date black people. And I'm like, well, it's not like 100%. And then, and then she just wouldn't let it go, because then she mentioned it again like later on, and she's like, okay, like, do you guys like make out or like whatever? Like, and I was, because I didn't want to tell her, she was just like, oh, you guys are just friends. But I kind of put my foot down when she was just like, do you guys make out? And I'm like, well, that's none of your business. And so she was kind of trying to be like trying to push me to like answer her stupid questions. And so I was kind of like, wow, like, and that was probably the last time I hung out with her. I was just like, she's just a jerk, but again, it's one of those things that if somebody is gonna, put their insecurities onto you, you don't have to internalize it. And that was another time I totally internalized it and was like, oh, like, this person probably doesn't like me. And like, even though I had like complete evidence against everything she was mentioning, and complete evidence that everything I knew was accurate, she was just trying to get me to reveal more and more details about something I didn't want to talk about with her. It's not like we were that close. We were in the same cohort, and the other girl was she was from China and was an immigrant student, and she considered herself my best friend. And I'm just thinking like, okay, you didn't really like stand up for me, you didn't really like, try to help the situation. And I think that this lady, she was racist against, like, she had some internalized racism against her own people, because she was a black person too, and she just had some insecurities about it and about relationships and stuff too. and then for some reason was trying to make me feel bad that, you know, I mean, I wasn't even bragging. I mean, the thing that's weird is like when people start like trying to dig into your life and like ask you questions, because I'm not really that forthcoming to share about things about my life. And then when I do, it's like, okay, people start getting like surprised because I'm maybe not what they expected. They don't think that I'm like an LGBT person or like anything. Like they just don't know what to think. And so I think that catches them off guard. Then they start to get insecure about it. And then they start to throw their insecurities back at me and start to mention all this kind of stuff. But then it's like, well, I don't think I need to be insecure about that, because I was never insecure about, you know, my race with this specific person, or, you know, the distances with these other people, or like anything like it, or just like the temporary factors with some people. Like I was never really insecure about any of that stuff. So I don't think I should start getting insecure about something just because some random person who doesn't really know me on that level about stuff is making like weird assumptions. So that's kind of the method. I mean, it's a lot to explain, I know, and I'm not trying to be like venting about it so much as I am really just trying to give examples about like different ways of methods to, you know, try to look at things. And like that's kind of how I decipher, you know, is somebody friend or foe? Is somebody really, you know, trying to understand me, or are they just trying to create tension in this situation? Like, what the heck is going on sometimes? Because sometimes people think that they're being funny. Sometimes people have nothing better to say. Sometimes people don't know how to communicate. And they just kind of start popping off all over in their own little methods. And, like, you know, I can't really do anything about that if they can't keep that under control. Like, I'm not really one to start arguments in front of people and stuff like that, but it's like, if you're going to put me on the spot in front of people, I don't see why I shouldn't be able to put you on the spot about the same thing that you're asking me. That's kind of my take on it at the moment. And I'm trying not to be like in an ego state of being like, oh, let me throw this on you and like make you feel insecure. But I feel like if somebody really wants to know that certain personal information about me, first of all, I don't know why they would ask me in a group. But then second of all, if they really want to have like this group kind of slightly tense conversation, then, I mean, you know, they need to have the conversation. I mean, they can't just put it all on me because they're insecure about something that they don't understand, and then expect me to do all the work of answering all of my side of something and trying to defend myself. Like, I shouldn't have to feel like I need to defend myself in a conversation. And I don't think friends should be like trying to put each other in those scenarios anyways. Most of my friends, like 99.99% of them aren't like that. Like, I don't have a lot of friends that do like slightly disrespectful things like that. But I think sometimes people just don't know. They don't know what they're saying. And I'll just chalk it up to a form of an ignorance where they just don't know what they're saying. Like, what can I do? I can't do anything about that. If somebody doesn't know, like, what they're saying, like, that's not on me. It's not on me to educate them. It's not on me to kind of, you know, find reasons for certain stuff going a certain way. I think a lot of stuff, if somebody's super intelligent and they really want to know, they would Google it and look it up, you know. A lot of these types of things, they can find the answers for why people do certain things in a certain way. But yeah, don't let people make you feel insecure. And if they are, you know, you don't have to internalize it. You don't have to take it internally and start like getting insecure on yourself about certain stuff that other people just don't understand. Like, there are a lot of people out there that want to make you feel weird just because you're different, and you're just different. And just because they can't wrap their heads around it, just because their minds are kind of narrow, or they don't think things through and they want to put it all on you to try to answer stuff that they've never had to think about. I mean, as a minority person, if it's your gender minority or sexuality minority or anything, you shouldn't have to feel like you have to answer to all that kind of stuff. I mean, if you want to, cool. If you want to try to educate, cool. But then it is kind of hard also to, back off or to be like more passive or not answer. I understand that is hard to do, because the second a person decides like, hey, I'm just not gonna like answer this person's questions, those people start getting more defensive sometimes and kind of like not attacking. I don't want to call it like attacking, but it's just like that other person mentioned to me, how she was kind of like, oh, well, you guys probably aren't really like together, or like, just because I didn't want to explain like what we were or weren't doing together, like, because that's really nobody's business, so I kind of see it that way, where it's like, well, you can think what you want to think, but I'm not gonna bend over backwards for you, or like, let you try to like intimidate me or persuade me or pressure me into answering something that I don't want to answer. So you should never feel pressured. You should never feel that way. And if someone's really your friend, they'll try to hear you out. Some people can't hear. They don't want to hear. They don't want to listen. They mention things about not having answers, and then they don't want to do the work. It shouldn't all fall on you just because you're a minority. It shouldn't have to fall on you. And so, okay, with that, I'm still trying to get down to San Diego, but I want to, man, I'm stuck in this stupid traffic. I finally get close by, and I'm in traffic, and it's almost 6:30. But, okay. Yeah. But yeah, guys, well, I hope you enjoyed listening to this. Sorry, I know there's a ton of background noise. You guys know how it is when I'm driving, but, lately it's, I've been having a tough time recording, but I hope this is helpful. Thanks for listening.